There we go.
So just by way of background, I thought it would be helpful just Bob and I have agreed to be co-chairs. And in terms of communications through email or sort of officially running the meeting, I thought it'd be best if one person did that, so I'll do that, but we're still a team. So you know, I thought maybe just everybody, you have 2 new members here today. And maybe everybody can go around and introduce themselves. Jill, if you want to just tell,
Sure.
you know, who you are, how long you've been in town, and, you know,
Sure.
a little bit about yourself, and where you work.
Absolutely. So Jill Raptor, nice to meet you guys. Welcome. I work in project management for a financial institution. And I've been in Medfield for 13, 14 years. Got 2 little ones coming up to school. So happy to have you in the group.
So I'm Peter Michelson. I moved in Medfield in 1986. I lived right down the street from Mike Sullivan. I've years ago was on the Affordable Housing Committee. And for 2 brief years, I was town council. And I've coached soccer and basketball. And I just retired this past summer after 26 years in the general counsel's office at UMass.
All right, so I'm new. I'm Brent Nelson. I lived at 28 Dale for many years now at Tallwood Drive, number 4. I'm a physics professor at Northeastern and associate dean there, and been serving on the Housing Authority for the last 5 years. Just got reappointed by the governor for another 2 to 3 year stint.
Bob Sliney, this is my 5th year on the Warrant Committee, and been in town for 28, 29 years. 3 children, but they're all grown and moved on. And as Steve mentioned, you know, I think it's important that we have one go-to person, one person to keep this organized, and so it's not confusion. Did Bob here? Did Steve here? You know, Steve's the go-to guy, and Steve and I communicate, and we work together on this. But I think from the perspective of order and you know, administering the meeting, what have you, Steve knows that, as you all know, I'll have no problem speaking up, but that's
So Steve Callahan, I've been on the committee about 1.5 years now. I joined, I retired after a 40-year career in public accounting. And my wife said I need something to do, so here I am. I have two kids that we put through the school system here. And I've been in town for 28 years. He's the veteran.
I've been in town since 1980. Senior person, I may not be the tallest, I think Matt is tall. But yeah, 3 kids through the school system, great school system. And because of that, and because I had some background in schools for the last 10 years of my career, I've been assigned the schools for the last few years. This is my 4th year on the committee. But welcome, it's gonna be fun, you'll enjoy it. We talk openly here, and everyone's respectful of one another, and it's a great group to be a part of.
Matt Eldred. I have 2nd year on the Warrant Committee this year. I have 2 young children, one in 1st grade and a 3-month-old. So they go into the school system. I grew up in Walpole and have been living in Medfield for I think 4 years now. And during the day, I manage a commercial asset portfolio of real estate in the Kendall Square area for MIT.
Christine Freeweiler, I'm the town administrator. I was appointed in 1999 as the assistant town administrator, and then in 2019 became the town administrator.
Excuse me, my name is Frank Travaglia. I just started as assistant town administrator in November. So if I ask any questions, then just cut me some slack. Really, it's been a really great couple of months, and really enjoying getting to work with everyone, and looking forward to working with you all over the course of the next few months.
Great, yeah, well, welcome. It's, Jeremy. Don't forget about you.
Oh, hello, Jeremy Marset, the former chair of the Warrant Committee. Been in town, my wife and I have lived in town for over 18 years. We have two kids, an 8th grader and a junior in high school. Before serving on the Warrant Committee, I was on the Board of Water and Sewerage for about a dozen years or so, and some served on some various other committees. Welcome. Good to see everyone.
So we're looking
just
forward.
Andrew.
Sorry, Andrew. We've got very important person that you will all become very familiar with. Andrew, you want to introduce yourself?
Andrew Foster, the town accountant, been town accountant for about 6 months and was the assistant for about 3 years before that.
Andrew's so eager to speak with us, he took over the Warrant Committee room, so it's just drop right in.
So I think you'll find the town finance group here in town at the townhouse here very transparent and open. They as you can see by the materials they prepared for you, they were more than willing. All the departments are more than willing to answer any questions that you have as you go through as we go through the budget process this year. So the next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. We have a October 24th set of minutes that we need to approve. Or is there any comments or questions or anything like that?
You sent it on?
Yeah.
They're a while back. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Motion to approve.
Second. Okay, and all those in favor?
Aye.
I wasn't there, so.
So you're gonna abstain? Do you want to abstain?
Yeah, I'll abstain. It's here. Minutes is pretty
Okay.
not controversial.
Oh, you would be surprised.
Wants to select.
This might have been the one I missed actually. So. I'm not sure her name, but 24.
Okay,
Oh, Lord.
are you a yay or nay?
I'm gonna abstain, you got enough to pass minutes, because I didn't read it lately.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
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 I'm a yes. So we need Jeremy, we need 5, right?
I'm a yes.
Jeremy's a yes. Okay, we'll have to deal with it next
Meeting.
meeting. After we chance to read them.
Yeah, well, we know that.
All right.
You need majority when there's 4 abstentions.
I don't know.
Technically, yes,
I think you do.
yeah, you still need a majority.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, it's not a big deal. We can.
Do it at the next meeting.
So we'll do it the next meeting. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is just a discussion of the budget calendar, the process for budget this year and the assignments, so. Maybe a little bit about the process for the people who haven't been through it. It's basically, as I'm sure everyone understands, this committee sort of we're here for the town meeting as an advisory committee to the town, to all the people who attend the town meeting. And we're sort of I like to call a fiscal watchdog. We're separate and independent from the executive branch, the selectmen. And so we basically do have input on sort of financial policy matters, and we look at all the budgets, evaluate capital requirements that come before the town, anything that comes before the town meeting. Basically passes through this committee for a recommendation. And so that includes zoning, includes bylaw changes, special any debt type approval. But what we're gonna embark on over the next couple months is what the core mission of this committee is, which is looking at the budget, and so. We Christine and her team have spent a couple months now, I guess, going through meetings with all the departments. And having them put together what their requests are. Basically forms what's kind of in this book for us to go through. We've assigned kind of a preliminary assign of budget areas to people. And I think, what you'll see is there's a pretty comprehensive set of information here. But the process really, it's been underway for a couple of months. It's now, we're inserting ourselves in that process, and it's basically to act as, so when you're like the warrant committee liaison to each of these departments that you've been assigned to. And expected to sort of, meet with them and go through, changes in the budget, understand the budget, the resource request, and then come back to one of our meetings at a later time and, present what you find, educate basically the rest of the committee on what you find. And sometimes for smaller items, you can do that by yourself. If it's a bigger department like the school or the police and fire, generally, or even the library, you'll see that some department heads will have a presentation prepared, and they'll come before us and do a presentation and explain why they are asking for what they're asking for. What else am I missing here? So that's kind of the process that leads up to a vote at this committee, on each of the.
And excuse the basicness of this question, but due to, I see on my list, Trierweiler for a bunch of them. So I was supposed to call Christine and pick a time to come in, and we just talk about it. And I call the other department heads and pick a time to come in and talk about it.
Yeah, or send them an email, whatever's easiest, introduce yourself, tell them, they'll be very interested to meet with you. So.
Yeah, I heard about your wire fraud conviction. So I'm anxious to meet you.
They're accustomed to the process, so they, and I would, there's a couple of points that, to add. One is, we're the warrant committee, so while the budget is the largest piece of the town meeting, it's all the articles that we're responsible for. I think it's important to note that, because it's not, it's beyond the financials. Anything that comes before the warrant when it closes tomorrow will be on our agenda, and from that it'll be a similar kind of assignment to people with expertise in areas. We'll have both warrants assigned and in a discussion. I think the other piece is, and I would encourage it, I've always encouraged it, which is, to encourage the managers of the departments to come in and make a presentation before the board, whether it's through Zoom or in person, for two reasons. One is, I think it's been very beneficial for me to meet the people and give them an opportunity to discuss where they're at and how they fit in, and what their priorities are. One of the discussions, we get very thorough in terms of information on the budget. And a lot of the information that you can get when you meet with the individual managers is, what their concerns are, what their priorities are, what they're looking at currently and what they're looking at down the road, and give you a perspective that you can share with us and that they can share with us. But I think it's a great opportunity for, in every case, to take the time to have them come in and speak with us and present to us, because it gives me, and it's given me over the course of my 5 years, a great deal of confidence in the people and the work that they do, and it gives them an opportunity to present to us. So I would encourage that when we can.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the timing, I think. I think what we're gonna do this year is focus on sort of the budget first, and then if there are articles that are non-financial, we'll deal with those at the end of the budget, because the budget's done, it's ready. The warrant article hasn't closed yet, closed tomorrow, but we'll learn what we have, I guess, as potential articles to deal with tomorrow. So this color coded sheet is the list of areas that we thought, again, based on prior year expressed interest or what we think people, have a expertise in. That's how the assignments were done. It's nothing magical about it, but if anybody has any concerns with what they've been assigned, let us know. We'll try to work with that and change it around. There is one thing I actually have on my list of things I want to make sure. We have meeting minutes that need to be done
Yes.
to comply with the open meeting law. We historically, I guess we had Newton Thompson, who volunteered to do those every meeting. It was very nice when he was here. And then we didn't have a volunteer to do it, so we rotated, alphabetically, last name, person responsible for doing meeting minutes. So I don't know if anybody wants to volunteer to be a meeting clerk or whatever. But if not, we'll just rotate it alphabetically around, so everybody takes a turn to do the minutes. Does that sound like what people want to? Okay, so
Share the rules.
share.
I'll take the first one, because I didn't read the minutes that we're supposed to approve today. I'll take all of them. So, this is a note to you too, that, these are recorded, okay, so you can go back and look at the recording and put your minutes.
Yeah,
Well, that's something I'd like to talk about, because when we do these minutes, it's almost verbatim. It is so detailed, and I guess I'm accustomed to when I was doing minutes when I was in my work life. It was, we discussed the following, there were differences of opinion or whatever, and then the result, the conclusion is this, rather than almost, Ed asked this question, Bob asked, Steve asked that question. It's so detailed. Do we have to be that detailed? All right, what do you think?
I mean, there's differences of opinion.
Yes.
I think if you ask a lawyer, I think the town council will say that it has to be detailed enough.
There has
so
to be a
that
reflection of the discussion.
Somebody can read it and understand kind of a pretty good
Would understand
understanding
it,
of
yes.
what you're talking about.
Right.
You don't need
Yeah.
to repeat verbatim everybody's, conversation.
I know, because you go through these things and it took 4 hours to do
Yeah,
a
I
meeting,
know.
because you're listening and you're going back and you're trying to get it all. And can we reference the Zoom call? Or can we reference the Zoom?
No,
You cannot.
no.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the problem.
Okay.
It would be so much easier if you could.
But I think
Like
maybe,
meeting, like a minute time, like see,
No.
we can't do that.
oh, no, not really.
Okay.
Maybe it's helpful if I send out some of Newton's old minutes for
Yeah,
people to look at, because
Okay.
I think Newton did a good job of capturing kind of the middle ground on that.
Okay.
So I'll take
Yeah,
care of that. Yep.
That's helpful.
but it is helpful to have that recorded.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how does one access the recording when it's your turn to do that?
Just let us know. We'll send it
You
to you.
send an email to them asking for it, and they'll send you a link.
And there's a pin, you just plug in the pin and you're good to go.
Yeah.
They do link to the website.
Yeah.
And Christine, can you, I just sort of overview your open meeting issues in terms of. We have a group of 9,
Mhm.
right? So
You need me-
anything more than 4
Right,
would be a quorum, and therefore. would
you
be-
have to have official
has to
minutes,
be-
has to be posted 48 hours in advance, not including holidays or weekends.
So it's very important to understand that, when a group you know, in a conversation, you can have a conversation with 2 or 3 of your fellow warrant committee meeting. But
I would warn you, Frank reminded me, I would warn you that, no deliberation over email. It's really easy if, you know, one of you sends an email out to everybody about what's coming up and then everybody replies all, and then that becomes a violation of the open meeting law. So we actually are, scheduling an open meeting law training, for the end of January, beginning of February, and everybody on boards and committees will be invited. So, we'll send that information out to everybody if you're interested in
Yeah,
attending.
that's a good reminder
Yep.
to do not reply all.
Yes,
Just, it's always easy, just reply to.
Just reply to you.
To Bob or I. That's the easiest thing, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, good point. I think I violated that once or twice.
it's easy to do. It happens.
Yeah.
You get caught up in the moment.
So the next item is the calendar. And that's, these were just dates, I guess, that, Bob, did you come up with these dates? I
well,
think it's.
let me just start for a second,
Yeah.
just before you, has anyone have any, has that people had a chance to look through the assignments and comfortable with it? And, you know, you can talk specifically if it's a specific area, but overall, you know, one of the intents is, and it doesn't always work out this way, because remember, Joe can tell you, you get thrown right into it, but we're trying to give an opportunity to get your feet wet a little bit without, there's a lot to take in, and I think it's great, but you will be called upon for different processes during the year, but this was initially a discussion that Steve and I have had, and Jeremy had input to, and then others, and Christine gave us some feedback as well. So I think that the idea is, this is an overview that gives you each an opportunity to, as I said, to get familiar with it, and to meet with the people within the town as we go on to meetings.
And if there's a particular article, other than the main budget that we have to deal with, and if you have an interest in, let us know. You know, you can sort of take the lead on developing that detailed understanding of the, you know, the article and bringing it to the committee and, you know, letting them, you know, educating everybody on what the issues are.
And that's really important, because we're all learning, so we benefit from input, we benefit from dialogue and discussion, and really important.
Yeah.
And
The regional vote tech, are you the contact person? Who's the expert in the town who can give me a little, get assigned that?
Michael and I.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was like 145,000 and making the budget.
Yeah, I'd have to look back for last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, Michael and I can go for it.
Okay.
Okay, so, again, if you want to chat later about any of these assignments, let us know too.
yeah, so the calendar, as you mentioned, this is kind of a straw man that I put together. Really feeding off of Christine's budget calendar and knowing what I knew about, you know, I mean, we've got a drop dead date, as it were, that's the 2 of them, actually, I think. One is that the warrant goes to the printer the last week of March. Okay, and then of course, May 1st being the town meeting, so we've got 2 drop dead dates, but the dates in between, a little bit of the construction was, that we talked about, is that the board of, the select board meets alternating Tuesdays. And there seemed to be a strong preference not to have Monday meetings, because those of you still are enjoying employment, you know, have a busy Mondays, so we try to set that a Tuesday. And the alternate being to meet the week that the select board isn't meeting, so that Christine and Frank and Andrew can participate with us. So that's the thinking, but it's really a straw man at this point.
Yeah, and I think these dates, again, they're, in most of them, I guess there is the other important date on here is the warrant committee hearing. You're required to be at that meeting and also the town meeting. So that warrant committee hearing is on a Monday. Monday, March 20th, so. And the other dates, we put on here, if we don't have enough on an agenda to have a meeting, we'll skip it and go, push it to the next meeting, the next week. But what would be helpful as you get into meeting with your departments is to let me know when you might be ready to present to the committee, either your department head or you personally, or however you want to do it. But because we have to sort of schedule out looking at all these budget line items, so if you let me know, I think I'll be ready this week or this meeting. Give me so we can start to schedule, because it's gonna take some time to get through all these budget line items. So the bigger ones take almost a full meeting, and the schools will be a full meeting. So some of them are real quick; they're 10-minute discussions, so as soon as, can you confirm, with whoever you're gonna bring in, or if you're gonna do it yourself, let us know so we can schedule one of all this out. Okay. And so,
We've lost the main TV, but we still have everybody else.
oh.
Yeah.
There
we go.
Okay. Are you, I thought maybe now you guys could sort of
Sure.
present your part of the meeting in terms of an update and where we stand. And,
Yep.
What you want to tell us.
So I think the easiest thing is to start by going through everything we've given you tonight. Put a little bit of context and explain some of why you have what you have and why there may be pages missing from what you have. So the first thing I want to start with is, everybody got a copy of the new GFOA budget. Don't tell the selectmen, because we only printed them for the warrant committee. That will give you a lot of context, so that may be helpful for you to read before you meet with your department heads in terms of what their budget was for fiscal year 23. There's also an incredible amount of detail in there regarding the whole budget process. We have also given you the 2024 budget binder. You'll notice your first tab, you do not have your budget worksheet yet, and a lot of this we'll be giving to you as the meetings go. We're still working on developing and preparing that. There's a lot of unknowns at this time. As you know, we have a new governor, and her budget is not due to us until March. Usually in the past, we would have some of those estimated state aid figures toward the middle of end of January. We don't anticipate having those as soon as we have had in the past. So again, we always estimate our local receipts and our local revenue and state aid conservatively. So we're continuing to do that, but we would like to give you a little more information. So we'll hold that budget worksheet until the next meeting. In terms of revenue detail, let's see, you will have state aid history. I'll just go this real quick. You'll have the state aid history. There is the new growth history. So anything basically looking back, you'll have. Anything looking forward is what we've held, and you will have tax levy history as well. We do not have our free cash certification. We met with the financial team today. Andrew has assured me we should have that any day now. So once we have free cash certified, we'll have updated information for your tab 3. I wanted to give you some background information on our 2 stabilization funds. So you'll find a white paper in here from DLS called an IGR, which will explain stabilization funds. And then the original warrant articles are included in here when we set up the capital stabilization fund, and the original warrant article when we set up the municipal building stabilization fund. We have included the school's budget calendar that they presented, as well as the preliminary presentation that they made to the school committee. They are obligated under town charter to present their budget to the Board of Selectmen, which they will notify us when it's available. I'll run up and get it for you. And that has to be done by January 31st. So we anticipate that coming shortly. In here, you will have several appendices. We have included the general fund financial forecast that we presented in October. Next one. A copy of the town's financial policy, which was originally adopted in 2018 and was amended in January of 2022. You'll find that in here. Let's see. And we have included, let's see, the Finance Committee Handbook. Thank you to Jeremy for getting that to us. So you have a full copy of the Finance Committee Handbook in here as well. Let's see. And then there's a glossary in here. We tend to use a lot of terms and throw them around, and now everybody who's been around the table for a few years knows what we're talking about, but there's a glossary in here just as a quick definition of some of the terms that we throw out, you know, local receipts, free cash, etc. So that's included in here as well for you.
And just the way we operate, there's no dumb question, so.
Oh, no.
you ask any question you want. We've all been there, we understand, you know,
Yeah.
I'm still learning, so.
So we've taken a first pass at the budget. Obviously, like I said, we're conservatively estimating the revenue side. And we're probably a little over $1 million delta between our revenues and expenditures at this point, which is where we are normally at this time of year. But we should find out some more information. Obviously, our fixed costs are going up, our health insurance, our property and liability is going up. And we don't get solid information on those estimates until the end of January, beginning of February. So I think by the end of January, we'll have your first budget worksheet to you, similar to what we did last year. Yeah. And we're happy to meet. I know this is a lot of words. We're happy to meet with anybody, review any questions you have, especially if you want to meet before you meet with your departments or after your departments. We're more than happy to meet anytime.
And I think that just is a kind of a note on that is that, as Steve mentioned, you know, we're really providing that fiscal overview, the watchdog piece. But it's important to recognize, and I think that, you know, Christine making that comment is very helpful. You know, if you have questions, it's good to contact with Christine because she's going through with the departments and see what on her calendar. I think it's January 15th when that department reports to them. So it's already gone through the scrutiny of Christine and Frank and their team right here. So, you know, it's not our job to go in and tear up the budget, as it were, you know, and dig down into it. We should get an overview of what it is, get a feel for it. At least that's how I've approached it. I'll let anybody else who's been on the committee comment to it too. But it's a question, but again, it's really your ability to go in and get familiar with it and understand where their concerns are. And also where the risks may be, you know, as Christine mentioned, because there are some variable pieces that each one of these departments has to deal with. And, you know, becoming aware of that. But from a budget point of view, I think my Christine, she locks them down pretty quickly in terms of what needs to be done and where it can be done. And maybe you can give a little overview as to what some of the parameters or some of the guidance that you give to the departments.
So this year, we asked the departments to focus on less than a 2% increase. We have held everybody over the last few years to level funding their budgets. We have done that. I think this was we'd be going to our third or fourth year doing that. This year, we asked departments to justify why they needed an increase. So you'll see there's a lot of level funded budgets when we present those to you. But there are some programs and projects that we're looking to move on. For example, I'm in the process of creating a human services division. I don't anticipate that will be any increase to any of our budgets, but will be a restructuring in an organization for the veteran services, public health, nurse, outreach, and the council on aging. So we're making that presentation to you as we go through this process as well. But their guidance was to come in level funded to 2%.
And to that point, there's a couple of departments that have new managers.
Correct.
So
Yes.
You get the
So
Council of Aging.
Council on Aging has a new director, Parks and Recreation has a new director, so there'll be a few people learning the budget process along with our new warrant committee members as well, so.
And just so they understand that that guidance that she mentioned was given to departments that she oversees.
That is correct. That is correct.
So
Yes,
we-
that is not a school department. Sorry. Yes, I should be clear. I'm just talking on the town side.
That's not
Yes.
to be surprised.
Yes, yes, yes.
Do we have any police and fire union contracts, salary contracts?
So
Standing?
we're still negotiating the police contract that expired in June 30 of 2022. So we're still ongoing
Okay.
with that. I'm sorry, June 30 of 21. Yeah. So we're still. working on that.
Buyers got a solid numbers for this year,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, this will be the second year of a 3-year contract for them.
okay.
And we, capital budget, we have our next meeting next Wednesday. And should have some information for you on the capital budget. But again, that's being funded through the capital stabilization fund. And the selectmen will be voting tomorrow night to allocate 350,000 of the ARPA funding for capital stabilization.
So we will have, in other words, at that meeting, at the capital budget meeting, they will finalize the capital budget request.
I don't think it'll be finalized
Okay.
on Wednesday, but we'll be pretty close. We had an initial meeting towards the end of the summer. And then with the turnover of our department heads, my staff, it's taken a little while for us to get back on track with that.
Okay.
For me, my feeling on that was, it's not as important as it's been in the past when we didn't have the capital stabilization fund, because we know we have a dedicated revenue source to fund the capital budget. So at this time, it's not impacting our general fund or our budget worksheet.
Yeah.
So,
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
If you, you're in the middle of, which happens all the time, of contract negotiations, if you reach a contract and it provides 2.5, 3% increases, at what point are we slotting that? That was a hypothetical, obviously. At what point are we slotting that into the budget?
as we get closer, the collective bargaining committee is very open with the unions, what date we need to have an agreement by in order to include it for town meeting. Because I serve on the collective bargaining committee, I know what kind of increases we're talking about. So I am always working on a way to fund that before it gets to you.
Good question.
Mhm.
So on, is any questions on just the overall budget process in terms of, sounds like this is ahead of where we were last year. I think you're seeing a little more.
That we were just talking about there before the meeting started. I was feeling like all day today that we were very behind, and then in looking what we had done at this time last year, we seem to be ahead of the game. So I don't want to get too excited about that because it's already second week of January. So I think I don't know if we're meeting next week.
Well, we can talk about that actually.
Okay.
And maybe before we adjourn, let's make a decision on
Okay.
what we would have it. Well, we talk about now, like what do you think would be appropriate if we met next week? We have.
So I think if we met next week, we could probably start going through preliminary revenue estimates with everybody. Talk about our outlook of what we're doing, what's driving the budget. I think we can make a preliminary presentation on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's meet the next.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful. Yeah.
17th, yeah.
Yeah. That will start the 2-week intervals. Because that's an off week for the select board.
It's right at, yeah, right. It's right after Martin Luther King Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, okay, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah, well, let's do that. Anything to update us on the town meeting process or articles you may know about or that you think?
Yep, so I can give you just a quick rundown of the articles that we have currently. We have our I'll go through the standards, accepting our annual reports, perpetual care, setting the spending limitations on revolving funds. We have our public access and cable related funds, elected official compensation, personnel administration plan, fiscal year 24 operating budget. We have some funds to transfer into the municipal building stabilization fund, but then again, appropriating those out for those projects, transferring funds into capital stabilization fund, transferring out to the 24 capital budget. We have the 24 water and sewer enterprise fund budgets. We have an article to appropriate surplus bond proceeds from the water treatment plant project. We have an article to rescind $500,000 in borrowing authorization for the water treatment plant. We are closing the ambulance revolving fund and transferring all existing funds to the ALS revolving fund. We have an article,
ALS, all right.
advanced life support. In 2018, we went from providing just EMT basic life support to paramedic advanced life support. We have an article for prior year bills. We have an article to appropriate funds if necessary for an elementary school feasibility study, the police collective bargaining agreement, a vote for discussion on civil service based on that contract. We have an article to appropriate funds from the cemetery fund for the study and design of a cemetery expansion. We have an article to appropriate funds for the construction of a garage at the Council on Aging. We are creating a vaccine revolving fund. We have some PPA solar agreements. The selectmen are supporting a noise bylaw change of hours article. We may potentially have an affordable housing trust request for funding. The selectmen are proposing an article for private wells to make them subject to the same drought restrictions as the public water supply. And the planning board is proposing a reorganization of the zoning bylaw. And we'll email out a copy of these to everybody.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll wait till they close tomorrow night, but
So I mean, there's a lot of routine ones, but there's a few.
there's a few. Yeah. We thought we'd have the dog bylaw this year.
Don't look at it.
There's still time.
All these people own dogs. I mean, we don't have a dog at this fight.
So the selectmen formed the dog control bylaw committee. We are just about to appoint a fourth member of that committee, so it doesn't have a full membership yet. So they haven't had a meeting, so we don't feel they'll be prepared to make a recommendation for this year's town meeting. So I know, Ed, you're really disappointed.
I'm gonna be Teflon on this one.
So, and we did have a citizens petition that's come in today as well that I can send out to everybody.
Oh, okay.
So that those signatures have been received.
Yes, I believe they were submitted to the town clerk's office today.
Is that the school committee?
Yes, yeah, and I'll send out a copy of that to everybody this evening.
All right. So at some point, we probably will have to deal with that citizen petition.
Mhm.
It sounds like you know what this is.
It's, well, my understanding, I haven't read it. I don't know what the actual petition has in it, but.
So I have it here. It's amending the town charter, amending the school committee powers and duties in terms of their public input policy, in terms of having public hearings. I can say it's too long for me to read here for you, but I'll send you out the whole thing.
Isn't the essence of that? At present, the school committee has with 10 minutes or 15 minutes prior to the opening of the school committee meetings for people to comment and they have 3 minutes to comment on anything. And then when something that comes up during the meeting, let's say they can discuss a particular area. In that, when they get to that section, the public also has an opportunity to speak at some point, again, for 3 minutes. And is this saying that second piece would go away and the only time that public could comment would be at the beginning of the meeting?
Honestly, it's
Is that
not,
what it-
it's
is that what
not,
it
I have not
intends?
read the citizens petition thoroughly enough to comment, and I would rather the
Yeah.
petitioner explain
Yeah.
that to you.
We will have to
That's
have.
the way I
you know,
heard
we'll
it.
have to have, you know, I think it's Chris Potts. That's
Yeah.
sponsored.
Yeah, I'll send out a copy for you to review, and
We'll
then you
have-
can
we'll have to
invite
have her
Chris
come
into your
and
meeting.
explain
Right.
to us.
Mhm.
And then I would assume we have someone from the school committee. come
I would
with
think
us.
so, yes.
Because it wants to change their policies.
Right.
You know. And then we'll have to make a recommendation.
So that is, I know you alluded to it when you started, is that's what makes this the warrant committee versus the finance committee. A lot of other towns have strictly finance committees who only weigh in on budgetary items, and they have a separate article advisory committee. We're super efficient here, so you guys get to do it all.
And I think one of the things that, you know, as you look at it, it gets to be kind of a tricky area, not kind of, it's a tricky area. You know, Scott McDermott, you know, mentioned in the past that, you know, the town meeting is the legislative body of the town. And in terms of some of the warrants and the articles that come up, we're like a subcommittee that really is to trying to flush out the issues, pro and con. And make it clearer for those people who don't have the detail that we have. So it's important, you know, when you get when we have the assignment of the articles, is to try to look at it in the perspective of the voter, of the town meeting member, participant, so that you to clarify for them the pros and cons. You know, at the end, as Steve mentioned, we vote, you know, to either recommend passage or recommend dismissal. That's just an active group of 9, you know, and then we go to the town meeting, we each have 1 vote. So the vote, in my view, of what the committee recommends is only as important or invaluable as the dialogue that precedes it. So I think it's really important to look at those articles in that way and to get each side. And that's what Steve mentioned. You have an article such as that is a proposal from the school board, and it's a proposal from the citizens to come in and have them each explain what their perspective is.
Yeah, we'll get into it. We'll spend time on it, but my very basic understanding of this is that the school committee had a policy. They tried to improve it and enhance it, as with all their policies. They go through the process of updating them. And I don't even think they've finalized what the final version of the policy is, but this, I think they're gonna do that maybe this week or something, but this petition doesn't like what they're proposing. And that's basically, it's around public participation in an open meeting. That's what it's about. So, I guess, there was the other item on the agenda, is, the Tri-County Vocational Technical High School.
Mhm.
I thought that we could talk about that, Christine, to the extent that you know anything, that you could share with the committee, beyond what's in the letter, I guess, but. So just by way of background, this, if you haven't read it, this letter basically came from Aaron McGuire, who I assume is
Superintendent.
superintendent of Tri-County, talking about a new vocational school, and this has been going on since, I guess, 2019.
Correct.
And they have just now gotten to the point in the new school building project where they well, I'll let you explain the process, but I don't quite understand all of it yet.
So they're looking, they had, similar to our project, they needed to decide whether or not they wanted to do new construction of the vocational school, an addition or renovation, what they were going to phase in, and they've just recently voted to do the full new construction of the vocational school. They have met with the town clerks. They're anticipating a election ballot vote in October of 23. The Norfolk County Town Administrators pushed back on Tri-County to say, it's great you met with the town clerks, but you know, what about us? What about the Board of Selectmen? So the superintendent actually reached out this week and is scheduling a time to come in to meet with the Board of Selectmen, explain the process, explain the project, what they're working on. So I will make sure that you're all invited to that meeting as well. There are 11 towns in the Tri-County district. A majority of the towns, if they approve at the ballot, the construction of the new school, if Medfield doesn't vote for it, but the other towns vote for it, then we are obligated for that.
So if 6 out of the 11.
Yeah.
Approve it,
Is it majority?
we're,
It's majority.
and there's no, we're, in other words, we're part of this tri-county
Mhm.
school.
Right, there's
You
no
can't-
getting
You
out.
can't say, I don't want to be part of this anymore.
No.
And I'm not asking this because I'm for or against it, just for information. The 6 of 11, if they vote for it, everyone's obligated to pay. That must be state law that's governing that.
It's statutory as well as an agreement we have within the towns within the district. When the district was originally set up, there were bylaws and rules for the district.
Okay.
And we'll put a package together for you about that. The issue is the capital cost of that is different than our assessment cost, obviously, of educating the students every year, but that capital cost is variable depending on the number of students you have enrolled at Tri-County. So it's very hard to anticipate what to budget when you don't know the number of kids you're going to have every year. So the town administrators have a lot of questions, as do a lot of the board of selectmen and town councils as to exactly how this is going to work and what they're looking for. They are in the MSBA process. So they do have some MSBA grant money that will pay a portion of that school as well.
So when we have, how many students that attend this school?
I think currently right now we have 6 enrolled.
6 from Medfield.
Yeah.
Okay. And we don't know the exact formula that they're proposing at this point about allocating costs, or do we?
Not that I could give you this evening.
Okay.
Yeah. Wait, Michael and I have been doing some back of the envelope calculations of what we're looking at to pay based on what they would choose for the ad rent or the new construction. So.
And I just have a few questions. Like, how would the borrow, and you probably know, you might not know the answers to these, but how would the borrowing occur? Would it be? Would the town of Medfield have to be obligated to some of this?
So these are some of the questions we have for the district
Yeah.
to answer for us, and we have all of our financial advisors working on this as well.
And then the other question I had was, it said that they want to have a vote. And how is that going to be done? Is that ballot box voting
It's an election.
by
Yeah.
citizens?
Mhm.
It's not a special town meeting.
No, right now they're proposing a special election
Okay.
for all 11 towns. It's held on the exact same day at the exact same time. It's a minimum, I don't think it's a maximum, I think it's a minimum of 6 hours. Everybody has to agree to the time period that the election will be held.
Okay,
So it's
It's
a
an
singular vote.
in-person election.
an in-person
Oh,
vote.
yeah.
That one.
Okay, so there's like an education process that the town has to, undergo to educate the citizens.
Yes,
Or
and
Tri-County has to.
exactly, and our concern is it's already January. If you're planning on this vote in October, if you don't have the administration on board with, when I say on board, not with a new voc school, I don't disagree with the fact that we need a new vocational school. It's on board with how am I gonna educate the citizens that we're talking about a new tri-county school, and we're also working with our own school building committee about our own school. So there's a lot of education that needs to be done between now and if that vote is to take place in October.
Yeah, and I would think top of mind for a lot of people in town would be, what's the
What's the
cost of
impact?
this thing?
Yep.
What's it gonna cost us? And,
Mhm.
hopefully they'll have some answers to that,
Yeah.
I mean, people see the 300 million, but. If
Right.
we're sending 6 kids, I can't
Do
imagine.
they allocate cost today based on number of students? And so
Yes.
if 6 kids, 10% of their kids, we get 10% of the expense.
Yeah, there's a
And
formula.
how they
Yeah.
be the same way for construction out there?
That's one of the questions. There's been
Right.
differing opinions
Right.
on how that's being done.
Mm.
Yeah, so hopefully, once
Right.
superintendent comes in and
Yeah.
gives us a full presentation, we'll have a better understanding and a better answer for all of your questions.
And that's gonna be variable.
In that meeting, whatever, so there's not gonna be a separate meeting with the finance, which says they wanted to meet with it. We just have one meeting.
I think a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen and Warrant Committee is probably more efficient
Yeah,
in recognition of their time and your time.
good.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Especially this time of year.
I know.
Better for everybody.
Yeah. What are they trying to do that like in the next couple months, the meeting?
Well, they'd like to do it in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, the next couple weeks?
Yes,
Oh,
they would like to come in by the end of January, beginning of February. So,
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. should be interesting.
This is the question, is this something that's likely to come up at town meeting?
No,
No.
not for 2023.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if it passes, the cost would be, what, 25, fiscal 25?
Fiscal year 25.
Or 26,
I think today we were anticipating 25.
but,
We're working on fiscal 24.
Right.
I mean, yeah, I mean, people are familiar with the town meeting process and when we have special town meetings,
Mhm.
but this sort of. This election thing is kind of getting,
It's a
That's
little
a bit-
different than we
that's a little
normally do
different
it,
than
so
what-
that's,
yeah.
that's why we would like them
I might
to
have
provide the
that
explanation.
question very well. I didn't, like, very much, both parts of this question. Could it be a warrant article? And you said no. Should we anticipate that there's gonna be an article in the local paper, in the patch, or wherever? And someone comes to town meeting and says, hey, can I ask a question? Blah, blah,
That's
blah.
up to the town moderator, but it's not anticipated to be on the warrant, so usually won't take questions for an item that's not on the warrant, yeah. But I'm hoping once the superintendent comes in, we'll get some press coverage, and they can make their processes a little more clear.
okay,
So actually, well, go ahead.
No.
There's a, one of the things, that's a good segue, actually. Because, you know, we had an event last year. A town meeting at which we did not have a quorum. So it had to be rescheduled. And it's a strong intent for all of us, I think, not to have that happen again. And so a couple of things have been going on. We've had a number of discussions with Christine and also with the town moderator on how to address that issue. And i.e. the issue being, what is the town meeting and why is it important? Why is it important for you to participate and attend? And the second thing is how can we better continuously communicate issues and items over the course of the period, starting today, basically, to May 1st. So, Christine, if you could just comment on the town meeting 101 concept that you have in terms of education.
Sure. So Scott McDermott, Marion Benaldi, the town clerk, and I are working on putting together a town meeting 101 forum to educate people. We've found over the last 2 years that there are a lot of people who have moved to town who are not from New England, who aren't familiar with town meeting. And it is a strange concept when you start talking to people who didn't grow up here and don't understand how New Englandy it is. So we're proposing a forum we were looking at holding at the beginning of March to have just to talk about why town meeting is so important, what it is, you know, what happens at town meeting, what happens to your budget at town meeting, what happens to your tax bill at town meeting, all of those things related to why it's important to do that. I actually heard from Scott today, and he has been talking with Katie Duvall from Medfield TV about working with her to run some sessions similar to that she did when she was in Bedford as their cable manager up there. So I think we're meeting next week, and I'll have a little more update as to where we're headed on that.
Right, so there's two pieces of that, you know, to Christine's point, just education. What is the town meeting? Why is it important? Why is it important for you to go? You know, don't delegate it to 9 people and, you know, and whoever shows up at the meeting and, you know, you lose your voice. The second piece is to what Christine mentioned is, how do we, and this involves all of us here, you know, how do we communicate to the town, to the participants, to keep them informed of the process so that it's not, you know, April 20th that you get a yellow book in the mail and you put it to the side and then you go, oh, hell, you're gonna go to the town meeting, you pick it up and you start reading it when you're sitting there in the bleachers. So we're trying to get a better way of communicating it on a kind of a continuous process as these issues come about. So the meeting next week, that Scott and that Christine mentioned that Scott has been thinking from some conversations that using Medfield TV on somewhat of a regular, some basis, periodic basis to present and make people aware of budget articles in some way that people can come out and do it. Now, the details of which are in the
Still
mix
working,
right now,
yeah.
but that's the idea. But I think it's gonna be really important. I would encourage you all to think about that and to give some input as to how we do communicate to the town, people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's, as we all know today, in today's world, people are really busy, they don't wanna spend time reading them. 200, 300-page book or big yellow warrant article warrant. They absorb information, visually through YouTube or watching TV or something like that, so having some form like this, I think, is another avenue to reach people, to communicate, things that we think are important, that, as I say, an educated and informed citizen makes good decisions.
Yeah, and candidly, you don't wanna be starting now, and then all due respect to Scott McDermott, this is a substantial commitment. And you don't want to be sitting there on May 1st and wondering if we're gonna get to 225 or whatever the number is. That's just not a good feeling. I think all of us can agree to that.
Not doing that again.
We've been.
We are going to have it.
Yeah, and so the idea is, let's see how we can do that to get people, we're not gonna get 13,000 people to come, but you're gonna, get people to be engaged. And I think part of that is simply, bringing the issues forward so people can pick their priorities and see that it's not just, oh, rubber stamp this, or where did it come from? It comes from them. And I think that's something that we can work together to improve on the good.
Any questions? I mean, we went through a lot tonight. Any questions or comments or?
I don't wish to appear to be contrarian, but I noticed that the date for the warrant committee hearing is, I think it was March 28th. And that's before, around then, and that's before there's a printed warrant. So how are people gonna, who's that for? Are citizens supposed to come in when they haven't seen the warrant?
No, I think the hearing is on the March 20th. And then the election is on the 27th and the warrant goes to print
Yeah,
on the 28th.
But you can.
but all the,
What's the hearing?
So the hearing is,
so you're obligated to hold a public hearing on all of the warrant articles and the budget recommendations that you've made up until that point. So you have, all of this information is updated. We have a town meeting website and we update all of the budget information on the financial page, on the town meeting page, as well as the warrant articles. So we can't print a warrant until you've made your recommendations, and you don't always make your recommendations until you get public input. So you'll get that first, then we go and we print it and send
But
it out.
in that process, each one of the articles will be addressed. Right? But it can be either recommend passage, recommend dismissal, or to be heard, right?
Right,
So
if
if
you're
there
still
are
gathering
open
information.
items as of March 20th, we will say it is to be heard and no decision has been made, but it's required to be held formality so that legally that document can be printed.
Well, and you wanna get public input on anybody who's got some
Right.
concerns about any articles to that point.
so in the printed warrant, it just says to be heard, and at the town meeting is when we actually tell everybody what we want to say. Yeah.
So you still have the period March 28th to May 1st in terms of the printing. But
That happens, I guess, it's happened a couple times since I've been on the committee, but the goal is to hopefully, get through everything, so we don't have that situation, but a lot sometimes it's beyond our control, like I think the one with the,
Metro State Hospital.
I think the one with the bylaw,
The bylaw.
the school building committee bylaw one.
You were heard at town meeting.
That
Yeah.
was, that one was going right up until the meeting. Yeah. So, how about you, Brent? Anything you want to inquire about or?
Not this time.
Okay, okay.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I do want to point out, we are having some email issues. So we are sending out emails and they appear to be totally fine, but we are finding out that they are going into everybody's spam. So IT has been working on it for the last week or so, but please check your spam filter for emails from us.
Did have anything with one email from Mary.
Yep, yep.
Oh,
It's,
maybe that's why she hasn't responded yet.
that was, yeah. So we're getting your emails and then we're responding and we're finding they're all going into spam. So they are working actively around the clock to try and figure out the problem, but if any, especially the new members, if you're emailing us and you don't get a response right away, it's because we're probably in your spam.
Is that all town departments?
Yep, it's everybody.
Oh,
yeah.
Even the school.
I don't know if the school is affected, but on the town side, all the town is affected.
I check my junk mail in the morning to put that.
Yeah, it's been,
No offense, you go open junk.
no, and we 3 times in this last 10 days, we thought it was fixed and we just found out it's happening again today, so it's been really frustrating. So, yeah, we're not ignoring you.
Well, I would just say that, you know, the distribution of the assignments and the calendar. You know, make input. You know, don't copy everybody, just send it to Steve and you can copy me if you like. But just to get any feedback as you go back and read through it and, you know. The question from Frank or Christine can go directly, but as I said, that open meeting issue is. It's important to just have that discipline around it, so. Limit the conversations and then Steve can make the decision on whether the broader distribution needs to be made. You can take it from there.
Yeah.
And then we would just ask that you bring your town meeting binders to every meeting, or your budget binders, and we'll give you additional information. If there's any updated information, we'll give that to you at that time, so.
And as daunting a document as this is, okay, it is incredibly valuable. And this is the first time it's been.
It's our very first one. Yes.
They came up.
Very nice.
It's the.
We're really, really, really happy about it, so.
Can you just give a 5-minute overview or less than 5 minutes if necessary, but what that process was with the grant that we got from the.
Sure. So we got a grant through the Commonwealth Compact and we worked with the Collins Center out of UMass Boston. And we were looking for the Government Finance Officers Association reviews all budgets every year for towns that if they're submitted to receive a distinguished budget award. And there are certain categories and certain thresholds you have to meet. We are actually still waiting to find out whether or not our budget qualified. Can't imagine how this wouldn't, but we're still waiting for that at this time. We worked on it for a solid year. So while we were working on the budget process, we were also working on this behind the scenes with all of the departments to get all the information to put into this document at the same time. So it was, if I seem like I have PTSD, it's definitely true. But it's great. And Nick was super helpful in leading the charge on getting the grant and working with the consultant on this. It's now been turned over to Frank, who now has all the templates, and we'll be updating that as we go. So our plan at this point is to continue to work with our regular budget worksheet that we see on a weekly basis. And then we'll be updating this information simultaneously, and this will be published online before town meeting is our goal. So, and then you submit it every year for the GFOA Distinguished Budget Award. You have to submit it within 90 days of town meeting. So it is, if I can go one step further, it is trying to take a goals-driven approach to budgeting. So anytime we suggest a new position or a new program, we're asking department heads to justify and tie that back into not only the local department head goals and strategies, but what the overall town goals are and strategies that have been adopted by the Board of Selectmen. So it becomes easier to understand what you're looking for when you can tie it back to what our overall strategy is.
And one, again, comment or congratulations or appreciation is that you'll see in the budget, there is a projection forward. It's not obviously, it's as good as any projection, but you know, Christine and the team have worked at giving a forward view, at least to give a perspective of what things were. He's done been a great.
Yeah, no, it's an outstanding document, and as Bob mentioned, that forward-looking, you know, view of finances is really helpful, I think. That we're not always looking in the rearview mirror, you know, we have some kind of, might not be perfect sight, but we have some sight of what's coming.
Well, and I think, Jeremy, you probably have been on the warrant committee the longest at this point, or at least involved between the Water and Sewer Board and the warrant committee. So Jeremy knows that before 2018, before we had our financial policies in place, we really only dealt with a year at a time. We did not have a 5-year capital improvement plan. We didn't have the municipal building stabilization plan. So we, for all intents and purposes, it was a year by year budgeting. And you know, we may have recognized that there was something coming ahead a few years, but we were never fully prepared or informing everybody of how we made those decisions. And I don't think we always made those decisions looking at the full future, like you said. So I think this document changes that approach and outlook. We have a 5-year capital plan, we have capital stabilization. So I think we've changed our focus to much more predicting what we're looking forward. What we budget this year has an impact on what we're doing in the future.
Right.
In my experience of working with the department heads is they're aware of it, okay, so they know that, for example, the requirement to have something on it, to bring a capital item forward, it has to be in the 5-year projection. So the discipline is not just in the document, it's in the practical application as well. So that's been a huge step.
Yeah. But it's involved a lot of discipline from the warrant committee. So you should all be commended for holding people to it as well. So
Yeah.
And Mike Marcucci and Gus Murphy,
Absolutely.
former chair people
Yes.
of the chair people of the warrant committee, and you know, that's when they go elevated up.
Yeah.
But that experience of the warrant committee has been the impetus of board members of the Board of Selectmen. Move these forward.
yeah, I think we have a better roadmap of where we're going, what to expect. You know, talking about the Tri-County, it's important for us, whatever we're talking about this year, it's important to know that's coming next year, whether we're talking about collective bargaining agreements, whether we're talking about the capital plan, what are we actually planning to do
Right.
for that?
Yeah. All right, well, are there any Georgia TCU fans? You guys have any Georgia
I know.
TCU alums? No.
Big game.
Big game tonight.
And because it won't take up a lot of time, any time actually, no, but Mather, Mather is our representative.
Oh, that's it.
On the, from the warrant committee, on the school building committee. And as you may know from the article, this is probably the most unique role, the warrant committee member on a committee, because it's a voting. In the past, the warrant committee member was a non-voting member. So I just think it just kind of set things up a little bit more, now that, you know, at each meeting, perhaps you could just give a quick overview of where things are. And
Sure.
This will be easy, right?
Tonight's easy, there is no update. The committee's yet to meet. So once there is meetings, I will, you know, bring those meeting notes to the warrant. We can discuss any sort of voting agenda that we may have. But right now, we're still kind of forming the committee. People are getting sworn in, so there hasn't been a meeting formally yet. Really only a couple of emails floating around about timing. So really no update as of yet. But once we do, I will, there will be no vote after until discussion of the warrant with the work committee about what our opinion is.
Well, first of all, thank you for stepping up on that, because that's a tough one, but I think the second piece is that because it's unusual. In terms of voting and non-voting, it's gonna be kind of like let's walk our way through a little bit.
Absolutely.
And look for some guidance from
Absolutely,
either
yeah.
the
I'll be
town or Mark or whatever.
I'll be looking for guidance from you all for this too, and how we feel about all these things as they come up. I anticipate a slow process, but I don't have any justification for that reason. It's just kind of as things have rolled out so far. Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
So it's gonna take a while for the committee to get organized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of,
Yeah,
Especially with 12, is it 12 people?
I think so, yeah. I've met a few committee members just about town, but yeah, there's really nothing to talk about us yet.
Maybe we should take you out of the minutes rotation for
We'll see.
doing double duty.
That is a good.
No.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for that one. I'm waiting for that email to hit when we gotta start reading those things. So. Let's see how it goes.
We did try to go light on your budget assignment.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So,
Do you have a sense yet how often that committee is gonna meet or not?
I think bi-monthly, but no, really no. No, I mean, just in conversations with Scott, when we were kind of forming the committee, it was probably gonna be bi-monthly. So, let's see.
So whatever Scott tell you, just multiply times 3.
And you told us,
My meeting with Scott is when I was running up Noon Hill and he was walking down. And we both kind of looked at each other like, oh boy. He's like, you're gonna do it? And I'm like, I guess so, you got it. There's nobody around. There's nobody around to say I can't, so, yeah, we'll see.
great. All right, are we ready for your favorite motion?
I'd motion to adjourn.
Second. All right, Jeremy?
Yes, aye.
Nather?
Aye.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
okay.
Hey, Jeremy, you didn't explain to the people what your current employment position is. I think that'd be interesting to the people who are here.
Yeah, I have a career in local government.
You are.
I'm sorry, I just want Jeremy to, in case you don't know what his position is right now.
Yeah, I have a career in local government.
Yeah. That's correct. That narrows it down. Charlie Baker says he goes, his father's up at North Hill in Needham, and his father was in government. And he says when Charlie goes to visit, he used to walk him around and introduce him to the different people in the building, saying, this is my son, he's in government. Jeremy is the town administrator for the town, sure.
Oh, excellent. Congratulations.
So we get all kinds of direction and input from him there, and as well as he's staying on with the water and sewer. Which is
Well, Medfield is very well served with Christine, so. You don't need
Thank
me.
you very much.
Well, you're very good one then, Sherburne. We'll wait to see your book next year. Sure.
Easy.